economy is the top issue for them in this week's election. So how exactly is the economy doing? If we were to give our economy a report card, what kind of grades would it be getting? All right, let's start out with the big one, GDP, gross domestic product, sum total of all the goods and services our economy produces, considered to be the measure of economic growth. We just got new numbers out last week. The US economy is reportedly growing at a rate of about 2.8% a year. For an economy the size of the US, that is solid. I'm gonna go ahead and give economic growth in the US an A-, not only because of the steady growth we've seen, which considering what we went through with COVID is pretty extraordinary, but also because if you look at US GDP, US economic growth compared to the economic growth of other countries, the US is doing really, really well. Always important to grade on a curve. The second thing on our economic report card has got to be jobs. Jobs is one of the most important parts of the economy. And a couple years ago, jobs was our star student. Sitting in the front row, hand in the air all the time, jobs was our Lisa Simpson. But lately, jobs has been like sitting in the back of the class staring out the window. We got some very disappointing jobs numbers last week, both in terms of just 12,000 jobs added in 4 weeks. Normally that number's more like 100 and something thousand, 200 and something thousand, so that wasn't great. Granted, there were extenuating circumstances with hurricanes and strikes, but still not great. Also, we got data about hiring and layoffs. And what we saw is even though layoffs continue to be pretty low, they're at one of the lowest levels we've seen in the last 20 years. The hiring rate is also the lowest we've seen in years. There's not a lot of hiring. There's not a lot of action in the jobs market. So I'm going to give the US jobs market a B-. So listen, jobs, I don't know what's going on with you. You're still doing okay. You're still going to pass this class, but I'm worried about the direction things seem to be heading. I'm not saying you have to be the same student you were back in 2022 when there were 2 open jobs for every available worker, but you know, a little bit of enthusiasm goes a long way. Maybe start hiring again a little bit. I think that would be a good start. And the last thing on our report card has to be inflation. Inflation was our problem student for years, disrupting class, taking all the focus away from everything else. How is inflation? So inflation is still climbing a little bit. We're still seeing those prices rise. Not to mention the prices we're paying now are a lot higher than the prices we were paying 3 years ago. Because even though inflation is coming down, that just means prices are rising more slowly. Still, inflation has come down by a lot, and if you compare inflation in the US to inflation in other countries, you will see that actually, comparatively speaking, the US is doing really, really well when it comes to inflation. So inflation, I'm going to go out on a limb here and give you a B+, because even though the last time I went to a fast food restaurant, I somehow ended up spending more than $20, you are definitely our most improved student. So we've got GDP coming in at an A-, jobs coming in at a B-, and inflation coming in at a slightly inflated B+. So overall, I would put the US economy at a B+, but I would love to hear what grades you would give the economy if you think I'm being too easy or too hard on our student. Also, go vote.